Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Dawson and I'm the Marketing Manager here at JackBe, and I'd like to welcome you to today's presentation, Maximize Your Data Center Operations with Real-Time Operational Intelligence. So before we get started, we just want to review a few logistics. First, we are recording today's presentation, so we'll be making the recording and the presentation slides available on JackBe.com a little later today. And then we do try to encourage an open dialogue during the presentation, so if you do have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat window on the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We're going to do our best to answer them throughout the presentation, and then time permitting, we'll have an open Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started with a little background about JackBe. JackBe has been around since about 2002. We are the leading solution provider of real-time operational intelligence. JackBe has been globally deployed to over 100 enterprises and government agencies. And today we're going to be talking about some of those implementations and how our customers have been using our Presto platform to implement data center operations solutions. Today, talking about some of those implementations is going to be our CTO, John Krupe. In John's former life, he was the CTO of Sun SOA Practice and a Sun Distinguished Engineer. John is also the co-author of Core J2EE Patterns, and also, if you're local, he's a two-time Washingtonian Tech Titan. So I'll quickly review today's agenda, and then I'll hand it over to John. We're going to start with what we're calling the data center shift, and that shift involves incorporating real-time and intelligence into your data center operations strategy. Then we'll talk about today's data center realities. So what does your data center look like today, and how can we help solve some of the challenges that you're encountering? How Presto really caters to the operations middle, which we'll explain during the presentation. And then we'll do a demonstration on our real-time operational intelligence solution. And then we'll end with how our customers are solving some of their data center challenges with our Presto platform. So John? Oh, you want to get started with the poll?
Yeah, first, hello everyone. We want to learn a little about you and put up a quick poll to understand how you're doing. What types of, what did your organization do to monitor data center operations today? And we'll just wait a few minutes while you run through this. Okay. About 30% has voted. So the old cut and paste approach looks like it's neck and neck with all the others. A lot of homegrown being thrown in there. Some are doing nothing. Well, good. That's we can definitely help you. And we're almost done here. Another half a minute. And hopefully, as we get these results here, we'll understand, from the questions, which it's open to questions on the Q&A that you can enter in, and we're answering behind the scenes. Just trying to gauge on what the pain points are, what you're interested in, how things are going, so that we can tailor the conversation. Okay, so 50% off the shelf. Cut and paste, that means you're doing a lot of manual stuff, homegrown. We hear that all the time. And nothing, that's pretty high, homegrown and nothing together. Okay, so hopefully the nothing is a problem, and that you want tools and technologies to help you get more optimized. Well, our discussion today is not about the actual monitoring of your data center from a data center monitoring perspective, but really being able to tie all this together to move you more up towards the big picture. And what we are going to do is talk about the types of problems that we solve, the ways and the shifts in which we're seeing data center operations move in terms of intelligence and being able to understand the impact of things that are happening. So just to put it in perspective, these are the types of questions that our customers typically ask. These are higher level questions. These are not questions necessarily down at the low level operations level. This is about the impact to a data center as a whole. And we'll get more into this. But things like, is my network outage impacting on online sales? Well, if you're entering a critical period, a holiday period, and your network is slowing down, what's my impact on sales going to be? You've seen many annual reports that actually blame poor performance on the processing of their systems. Maybe their systems weren't handling the load, and that hits the bottom line. How about a new security bulletin that's put out? What's the threat now on my organization? Now, data centers aren't just for your organization. They could be for your partners and your customers. It's not the same old data center that we're used to from 20 years ago. So the threat is extremely high of potentially being impacted at a data center level and down to software, down to customers. And what about weather? Weather, we've seen before that weather, horrific hurricanes or storms can actually take out power, take out generators. What's the impact of that going to be? Now CIOs and VP of operations are asking, what's the risk of this hurricane coming through? How is this going to impact my performance? So there's a whole bunch of things that they have to monitor in order to understand that. And then really, some of the new things we see coming along is how do I show real-time availability and performance numbers across all my data centers to corporate executives? We have instances where data centers are running large screen TVs outside their data centers, so when their customers walk through, when the executives walk by, management, they can see how everything is performing. So complete visibility and insight in real time. Okay, so really what are we doing here? Well, as with many things in technology, as we build things to solve problems, and quite often a lot of the things that we're building are not really designed to work with other things, or they're really more niche and focused on solving smaller problems. What would happen, and it's especially happening in the data center, is that these become operational silos. So as we grow our data center, and as we've seen in the poll, many of you have homegrown systems or some aren't using anything at all. Our experience is a tremendous amount of log file analysis, Excel spreadsheets, script writing, anything that can be done by different operations groups. Well, as you have many of these built and many of these groups around your organization, all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of silos. So the goal in being able to use technologies like ours to take this and not just look at things that previously we've looked at historically, but making the whole enterprise and data center operations real time and adding intelligence to that so that we can roll up information and aggregate it and connect it and see how things are being impacted, and ultimately maybe even apply some predictions in the future so that we can avoid potential issues. Okay, so to give you a little perspective about how big this thing is, just from the DoD perspective, take a look at probably one of the largest data center providers in the world, 772 data centers around the world, 6,000 locations, and look at the budget of the whole DoD IT budget, $38 billion for this fiscal year, and 24 of that is actually for data centers and for infrastructure for those. So you can imagine, look at these numbers and imagine the numbers, how they potentially double and triple when you start adding smartphones and tablets. How do you get a handle on this? And then when you start bringing in things such as mission awareness and mission impact and cyber awareness and things like that, all of a sudden your data center is changing the way that it supports the business. It's not only core to the business, but it's so sensitive to the business that you have to know what's going on at all times. Well, as we know, and many of you know, there's specialists and engineers and operators and software that really, really do a great job at focusing on specific areas. Great software out there that can look at packets coming across the whole network and analyze them. Great systems, storage systems that analyze storage and understand the distribution of storage and the optimization of storage. Application systems, systems that monitor patches and configurations, and VMs and all sorts of things. More systems, more types of things. The more we do to abstract and enhance and increase performance in data centers, it actually creates new challenges for us in being able to manage these. Well, as you take this concept here and you think about, well, you know, it was manageable at one point where we were able to kind of, you know, sit in a room and monitor all this stuff. All of a sudden, it seems like almost in the last few years, this has just skyrocketed into what the data center used to be and what it is today. And it's really grown into a place where we've had dashboards before. Many of you work with dashboards every day. But now the dashboards in these individual systems is really changing. Why? Because now these different operational systems, which we talked about as being silos, are really now opening up in all different data centers around the world. So when we just had a single data center, we could manage That was relatively easy. Now we have data centers around the world that are running big ERP systems, big databases. HR is run on these systems, and then we start bringing in commerce engines and storage systems. All of a sudden, all this has to run in synchrony, and you can imagine that just looking at a big picture like this is overwhelming, but how do I get views like this and start drilling down into lower level views and then continually drilling down to the sources of information? That's what CIOs and that's what VPs of operations want nowadays. They want to be able to take this and look at it at a high level, understand the state of the world for the organizational data centers. They want to understand everything that's being impacted. Now you take this and you say, well, we've done this before. Maybe we put out reports monthly or quarterly and we show how we did in performance. That's not what is going to work anymore, quite frankly. We need to understand the health and the state of the data center at the high level, be able to drill down and roll up and roll across. So what does that really start looking like? Well, it's hard to talk about this stuff and really show the effect here, and we like to do it visually as much as we can. So as we know, many organizations that we are customers of ours, they like to look at heat maps and the health of their data centers. They like to look at availability and performance and scalability, not only as a nice to have, but also as an SLA and conformance. Major MBOs and objectives and SLAs are being watched not only on daily but sometimes hourly. Why? Because customers require these systems. Partners require these systems. The organization requires systems to run optimally so that they can process. All of a sudden you have any point in failure or reduction in usage or performance, and you impact the whole business. So as we look at the health here, we start understanding that really to be able to do this, we want to be able to bring in other systems. We want to bring in real-time information from other systems, and that's the key here. It's not just looking at the operational data that may be coming from your network and your storage and your systems, but these are other systems such as your transactional systems. How do I monitor my transactional systems, my ERP systems as they're running? How do I know where they are? And how do I know my configurations of the network? How do I understand all the configurations of all my software that's out there and the patch levels and the hardware that's running and the firewalls? All this sorts of information is being captured in all different places. And because the data center is one big moving part, it's all changing all the time. So this is an extremely difficult problem to solve with traditional means of putting it all into a data warehouse. Many of our customers have tried that. Try to connect everything together via an ESB. Well, that doesn't really work, right? We don't want to have to write code every time this changes or we're doing something different. So the way that we do this is that we introduce our mashup technology into the mix. And mashup, you could think of this as just a very, very real-time and dynamic way to get data together from all disparate sources and put it together in the form where you can take action on the information. Well, that action is pretty much usually in the form of some sort of visualization. And because we're looking at so many different sources of information combined together, we're typically looking at those in a dashboard. So the idea here is why not just connect into these systems with the proper security and governance and get the information as it's changing, put it together as you need it, and put it together in the form that you need it. That's the big shift here. We're emphasizing the mashing layer that's happening here so that we can put it together and we can go and get this information on demand, and we can have real-time information that's looking at rolled-up operational data, that's looking at performance over time, looking at performance throughout the day and how it compares to last week, and then looking at the health. And there's no one dashboard fits all. You may be a CIO looking at top-level health and your performance that affect your major sales systems, or you may be in the middle at management that's looking at all the performance of your storage devices across the enterprise. So not only do you have the flexibility of the data you're putting together to visualize it, but you also have to have the flexibility to put the dashboards together so that you see the things you want. And to add an added requirement nowadays, you're not just going to do it in one place. You're not going to go to that product's portal and look at everything. You're going to want to look at it wherever you are, in SharePoint, in your Java portals, on your iPads, on your devices, on anything and basically anywhere that has some sort of modern browser. So you can imagine organizations going crazy just trying to get a handle on this. If you look at some of Wayne Eckerson's really great work that he's done with performance dashboards, be it measuring, monitoring, and managing your business, really did a great job defining the difference between operational, tactical, and strategic, and really does it in a way where you're looking at the freshness of information, whether it's happening now or intradaily, and dividing that between operational, tactical, and strategic is pretty accurate. However, we're seeing a shift happening now, and we're seeing a shift that things that were traditionally tactically oriented and strategic are now moving into the operational area. How do we know that? Well, we know it because the KPIs and the scorecards and the balanced scorecards are actually being requested to be plugged into the real-time information, and those are for the CIOs. So if you look on this chart, it talks about more or less reviewing things, reviewing information from the past and looking towards the future, and maybe doing it monthly or quarterly. Well, that's changing now. We know that CIOs are looking at these dashboards throughout the day, and they have them in their portals. Same thing with managers that traditionally analyze things over the week. I don't have time to do that anymore. I want to be able to do it as it's happening. So many of you out there that use homegrown systems, you may even be talking about more the purest view of operational systems. But being able to take that information that you're getting from real-time systems and aggregate it and put it together so that you can start showing more tactical or more KPIs and metrics associated with your data is becoming increasingly difficult to do. So we think things are changing, that technical type KPIs and metrics that traditionally were months or weeks are now coming out are real time, and they're not coming only from your data warehouse. They're coming from the core systems tied to your data warehouse and your data marts. Okay, part of what was done here in terms of what do these KPIs really mean, and this is the real shift that we're trying to talk about when it comes to the data center. We're not looking at individual silos of performance data. We're looking at performance data across the organization. And we're looking at this performance data and all types of systems and all types of metrics that we're capturing, and we're rolling them up. And so this is a good survey that was done asking about the impact, the positive impact that dashboards has on your organization. Wayne Eckerson put this out. He had 37 very high and 33 high impact on the operational level. So we know that these are really impacting organizations, but it's impacting it from a KPI perspective. So that means that I'm starting to look at the risk, the threat, the profit, the speed of order processing. Those things are very high-level metrics that are being tracked. So if I can measure my whole data center operation and tie it to those, then essentially I'm completely optimizing the view of my data center because I can see everything that's going on at every level, but also I can start tying it to the KPIs and the indices that organizations have. And that's really the key that we're trying to get at here. So what does this mean? Aberdeen tells us, well, if you have many KPIs that you're tracking, your profit margins are greater in your organization. And this is showing that the more that you measure, essentially, and you have KPIs and you measure against, the higher profit you have. Another survey is showing, well, how is your customer retention rates based on when you're gathering this information or associating it with KPIs. So the key here is that as we're watching all this information, we can do some really interesting things, such as online commerce. If I'm looking at my network performance slowing down and I'm looking at my customer churn on my website, and then I can start getting this information and correlating it to, I notice that when there's a 10% decrease in my network performance and it comes down to this level, that I lose customers off my website. Well, that correlates to loss in sales. So as soon as we start tying it to that high level, then we can start measuring it and drilling down and seeing the causes of it. What does this mean from an organization? Well, this is something we really research with our customers in the industry and analysts to see what's going on here. And a lot of this really comes from the grassroots way of operating a data center and monitoring things that are going on. there's so much information that's coming from so many different systems. Coming from log files, and that's become, a product area now, doing analytics on log files. But just the vastness and the amount of information that's changing, and all the work that operators have to do just to monitor these different systems is mind-boggling. But as new types of systems come out, as these data centers become more elastic and VMs become essentially the way to manage and distribute systems, well, that becomes yet another point of gathering metrics and associating with that. So the operators really have their hand full. But really what we're talking about is moving up here, where we're taking all this information that's coming from the different operational systems. And believe me, even if you have 10 different operational systems in 10 different areas, you start multiplying that and understand, how do I get the information together? You'll know that most of the work that's being done is pretty much dumped into Excel, and teams of analysts are working at this operations middle area, where we call it. These are large groups of people, maybe run by director of operations, project or program leads. There's enterprise solution architects, analysts, whole bunch of people that do nothing but monitor data that's coming from systems and rolling it up, connecting it, aggregating it, getting in other information, and then measuring that and putting that together for performance measurements, for risk, KPIs, and threats. Cybersecurity is a huge area where if there's a new vulnerability that comes out, how fast can I understand where that's impacting my organization? Well, the only way you're going to understand it is if you have those assets captured and connected, so that you know what systems have what software and what patch levels and what versions to be able to do that. And it's not surprising that most organizations take days, if not weeks, to be able to understand the impact. Well, if you're talking about vulnerabilities, that's nowhere fast enough. So everything we're trying to do in the middle here is automated and trying to do it in real time and doing it very situationally. I don't want a dashboard that only does one thing. I want to be able to build dashboards that pull out the information and connect it the way I want. I may be an analyst that works on a set of KPIs. I may be a solution architect that's looking at the risks associated with all the threats that are going on into my system. We don't know. Everybody, all organizations do different, but we need to automate the way that we get information to this group. Well, why? Because they report up to this group. The VP of operations, sometimes CEOs, CIOs, generals, admirals, you name it, the people who are responsible for reporting out how things are running. Because the data center is so key and core to an organization, we need to understand why things are happening. And when you start measuring people on the impact that risk has, or metrics has, on the way they work, then you know that at this top level, that's how they manage the business, based on all these indicators, scorecards, and threats. So if you take that and you understand that, how can we become more of a connected enterprise to be able to get the information all connected and put together the way we want, we could start getting dashboards with this information available to all different levels without having to do anything different from a technology or architectural level. So think about this, and think about the domains in which you have this. Just wanted to put a little context around this. Think about cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a perfect example of running in your data center. All the things that you do in your data center to monitor performance and optimization and operations is still there. Now you have the huge threats that cyber has on a data center, and you're now taking all the information from patch levels, configuration, running tests constantly throughout the day. This is running all different parts of your data centers around the world. Then you have to go and start connecting this to the different business systems that understand vulnerabilities, that have assets, and a whole slew of other data. And quite frankly, most of these business systems are pretty much homegrown and proprietary systems, maybe a whole bunch of databases or systems built, but they're still used day to day, sometimes throughout the day. And this has core information that needs to be connected and aggregated and mashed up. Well, if you start doing this, and you start doing this according to how we do everything else in the data center, you realize that quickly that we need to get right up to those the metrics. We need to understand risks and vulnerability, and I need to get a whole set of new information. And sometimes risks and vulnerabilities may be even a higher priority to have real-time information. I may not even have an hour, or every hour that I miss this information connecting, it could be millions, or it could be a threat on security. So this is the reason why organizations, especially in the data centers, are trying to go real-time and connect all this information, because they need to get this level of visibility in real time. Okay, so a lot of talking to give you the basis for what we're going to give you an example of what this looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a demonstration of things that we've done for customers, but we've essentially cleansed it so there's no customer information in there. And we want to give you an idea of the way in which this now works in terms of being able to match up technology and build these dashboards very quickly. It's going to be the form, the organization is called Wayne Enterprises, and there's three personas. There's a operator lead. This person is responsible for all the operators and typically has a higher view of the data center than just trouble tickets. This person looks at a whole bunch of systems and is responsible. There's a whole lot that this person has to manage. And then we'll go and we'll talk about the manager of operations that has a much higher view, and then show you how this information can be rolled up to the CIO level. So we have John O'Brien, our Super SE, who's going to be showing us a demonstration of this, not only in how fast you can show these things together, but also the different places in which these things run. Okay, John, why don't you give us some insight into how the lead operator works?
Great. Thanks, John. I'd be delighted. The persona here is a supervisor or lead operator in a typical data center. Here we're seeing this run in LifeRay, the portal of choice for this operator, and he's got responsibility for making sure the administrators and people keep on track and keep the priorities of both addressing system trouble tickets and managing and optimizing the system performance and availability of the key front office and back office systems. And the way he's doing that is pulling data in from Presto, that's collected and we call it mashed up, pulled together in one spot, so we can quickly see what's going on now and help direct that activity. So the valuable time spent addressing not only necessarily just the high priority things, but the things that are going to have the most impact. So for instance, you can quickly look at a pie chart and see what's going on as far as the high priority trouble tickets, or drill in and see which of the key back office or front office systems that run in the data centers are starting to be impacted by various things. One of the key things about keeping the data center going is having all this information in one spot, so it doesn't have to flip between different monitoring systems or different reports to see what's going on now, and then being able to even just drill in and get some more detail about what's going on. So it seems like there's some trouble going on with a number of high tickets, and let's see what those are going on. Oracle it seems like it's being affected with system performance is slipping into the red zone, as we can see by the gauge on the left. And a supervisor might want to just sample some of the detail rather than just seeing the high level and see that there's some network issues. Maybe users not connecting, maybe users seeing possible network issues. So he'll want to go ahead and maybe refer this to the network administrators or the security team. Maybe there's a possible malicious attack. And this is at his fingertips to get the high level or the detail, and really the visualizations and the information of his choice. And he's also got just a web feed here pulled into this LifeRay portal page, so he can see the latest news on security vulnerabilities and make sure that he's not missing things that are going on in the industry or elsewhere out in the whole world.
And John, so this lead operator, he, instead of being in, say, the remedy trouble ticket, they're actually pulling data from there and then pulling data from the other sources that are showing the system impact and performance. And that's the key, right, is that they this person doesn't live inside the trouble ticketing system, but is always watching trouble tickets and other systems. So the easiest way for them to really monitor this is being able to put it where they need to put it, which is in LifeRay Portal here.
Right, and so like so many operators, they need to, they do have a number of systems that they need to operate, a number of things they need to do. They need to manage, issues with trouble tickets and do regular maintenance things and administrative duties, maybe some development duties. And so when they have to figure out what they're going to do each hour and each shift, they need one place to go to make that right decision, so they don't end up spending their time on things that are not critical or not going to have a big impact on the systems. And one of the ways to do this is to put this in a LifeRay page. And so this is the role of the operator. One of the things I'd like to show is how easy it is to just embed these mashups or these apps in a new LifeRay page. We've got, if we want to just go ahead and add a new LifeRay page, we can simply do that, and maybe we'll call it the new page. Not that I'm a LifeRay expert, but we'll go ahead and take a blank page and simply add some more content. And some of the content is connected up through our Presto server. We can add mashups or apps and just drag them in and put them in one of the spots on the page. And then if we go ahead and set some preferences, it allows us to connect to that Presto server and select some of the things we want. If we want to see data center KPIs, we can go ahead and do that. There's nothing really I need to set for that. It just runs here. So I've got that mashed up current information as I need to see it based on my role. This would be more of a manager or a director role where they're looking at key performance indicators that are at a higher level across data centers, across business systems, but they also may want to go and drop down into seeing open tickets or closed tickets, and they can do that right in their LifeRay page. Of course, they can add, it's easy in LifeRay to add other controls and other apps right along this, so it's not just a Presto-driven page, but this is a place to have one page, your key mashups and Presto information, assembled together easily and delivered how you want it. This can be delivered easily from LifeRay in your favorite LifeRay page, or it could be delivered as well on the manager's or director is out and about. They can see it on their iPad or their tablet, and it would simply, if we show how it would run in the App Depot, this same data center KPIs view of things would be in a App Depot, which is the kind of like the Presto App Store, and I could simply, if I could simply share this, I could see some screenshots here and rate it, and simply go ahead and share this app by sending it via email. So with that link, anyone can get to it, or they can get to it in their, if we open up in a separate window, they can get to it in their iPad. It would look much like this, and they can interact with it. Now, if we step into that role of that manager, now we've created for ourselves an app in the that the manager might want to see for the things that they need to do. They need to look at things currently going on today and really compare them against the service level agreements and see how they're doing with a little bit of trending, but managers quickly make decisions about what they need to do and who they need to direct and orchestrate all their activities. So we can see here that the KPIs, like good organizations use, are good for today. So a manager might say, I don't need to really spend time on this, but let's look at the past 7 days. I may have to go into a meeting, I may have to address this, and I get to see the trends of how we've done. In this case, data center availability was a little bit low in the past 7 days. I'm probably going to have to answer for that. And let's look at how it affected the different systems. So I take a systems look, I can drill in and on this chart and see how it's affecting the different key systems that run in my data centers. And I can also see a business units view. So this is how my colleagues, the other key operations are affecting things. In this case, I kept finance happy, which is always good, but I'm sure HR and the communications department are going to be hurting, so we have to do better by those users. And this is a key thing. It's showing I don't have to just assemble data how it's aligned in the source systems or the data feeds that come in. I can pull it in currently and organize it how it makes sense to me in my role. So I know I'm going to have to answer to people from sales and finance and marketing about the performance of their key systems. So I get it organized here on my in my Presto app the way that I need it, and to consume it every every hour and every day in my work. One of the other things is
John, sorry to interrupt. People are want to make sure people understand that when you're clicking on this, whether if you're looking at it today, you're not going and taking the information and putting it inside Presto. You're actually going to the sources of this information and getting it as you need it, correct?
That's right. So this is pulling this all the way through from the source systems, and the Presto server is simply what we call mashing it up or combining it and displaying it in the visualization of my choice. In this case, we've got some trending and a scorecard view and the necessary bar charts or maps or lists that make sense to me. So you're right. This is getting up to the minute information, so I know what's going on as appropriate, or bringing in historical information so I can understand trends when I need to.
Okay, so let's, when you're drilling down here, now say that if I was really only interested in that top app where I'm looking at my KPIs, I'd be able to just take that and put that and use that, right? I don't have to take everything that's out there. It's not prearranged for me. I could pretty much get what I want and put it in any type of portal or SharePoint or use it in my mobile device, correct?
That's true. It's easy to assemble these and move these around. So if you need, if you just need the map view or the scorecard view or a few pie charts like the operator, then you can just look at those and put those on your favorite page.
Okay, great. Okay, we have a really hands-on CIO. Tell me what we're giving the CIO.
Well, the CIO is using the kind of executive portal. He's familiar with SharePoint. So if we go ahead and look at the SharePoint portal that the CIO likes, he's got a higher level view. He's got arranged on a page where he can keep an eye on the data center operations with a little branding that he likes, but he's also got the map view, or he can get a quick overview and drill in and see just a few KPIs on the current status of these data centers. And this is information pulled from some of those same data feeds that the lead operator sees and the manager sees, but it's arranged and displayed in a different visualization that the CIO likes. Besides it being single sign-on with his SharePoint, so he has one place to go to see all his good SharePoint apps, and this web part that has his Presto apps. So he can see how the different data centers are doing. He can also see a nice trend of some of the key metrics that he watches. He likes to see this summary of availability of the systems across his global operations in the blue line, performance in the red line, and the current open tickets in the green line. So these are just high-level CIO level metrics that he can see. So if he needs to see these the current day, he sees that trend, And if he needs to drill into a certain time period, let's drill into the last few hours, he can do that and quickly make an assessment of how things are going. Generally, having the red line and the blue line high or good, 90% availability and performance, be happy with that. But we can kind of see that they start to trail off starting a couple time periods ago. And you know, when performance starts to go, availability starts to go, and the green line tickets go up. So this is a bad trend, and the CIO is going to see that right away and decide he needs to call a couple data center directors and make sure that they're addressing this before the folks in the various business units start being affected and it slows down the whole operation. So this is an example of...
This is good for the CIO, but pretty bad for his direct reports, huh?
Well, and that's a key point. He can see the information at the high level that he needs to, or the details. You know, CIOs, one of the key things of making good decisions is having the numbers at their fingertips as both what's going on now and what the trend is. And the managers, the data center directors, they have the same opportunity to drop this same visualization on their favorite web page, so they can keep an eye on it and be ready with an answer when that CIO calls.
And this is part of this whole pervasiveness, that you can take these apps now and not only use them in different parts of your organization, but we know we have customers that make them available to their customers and let them put it wherever they want so they can self-monitor their assets in the organization.
Exactly. So this, the directors might be running this on their iPads, so they can see this trend wherever they are, whether away from their desk or on the road, and be ready for that that call or even prevent.
Great. Well, thanks, John. We have to move on. We have about 15 minutes, so thank you very much. Continue to type in your answers. And John, we'll take it back and we'll go back onto the presentation.
Great.
Okay, great. We're going to continue on here and just give you a little quick tutorial on Presto to show you what's behind the scenes. But we're going to, everything you saw there was built on top of Presto and was powered. As John said, we're connected directly into the live data sources, and that's really the key newness here. Is instead of taking data and trying to put it all, especially operational data from all disparate systems, into a single data warehouse or single store, we just connect into it as we need it and pull it the data we need and assemble it or mash it up and get it in the visualization. That gets us as real time as the freshest data and as it changes. Some data may change every 10 seconds, some may change every minute, some may change every hour. It doesn't matter. All the moving parts and the fact that we're connected into the live systems, which may in fact be data warehouses too, allows us to put it together when we need it. And that's the real-time nature of this, plugging into the live systems, being able to do all the things you have to do in an organization, such as security and governance, and all performance measures for caching and snapshotting, all those things to take less of the load off the operational system. But ultimately, if you don't have to copy information, if you could just use it as it's happening, that's the key authoritative source. So being able to do this means you can connect through standards to all different types of systems, whether your big ISVs or ERP systems, to some of the newer type systems that are coming out, NoSQL databases, or even news feeds. All this is information that can be put together to have a bigger 360-degree view of your data center. The self-service nature here is really moving quickly, and it's really about the dashboard side of self-service. You're not going to create everything yourself. You're not going to connect to the services and do the mashups and the apps and the dashboards. You may just be the lead operator there who's assembling their own dashboards and pulling apps that have been mashed up or have data from different systems, and then you can make the dashboards more intelligent by connecting data inside. If we can get to that level, then we get this very large library of apps and dashboards that are built, made available in App Store style, and then given to the end user so they can put them in dashboards or use them in dashboards. And then the pervasive nature here is that We can't afford to rewrite everything for every UI yet again. So whatever we build, whether it's out of the box or custom, has to be able to run in different systems as native web parts in SharePoint, as portlets in Java portals, and as modern HTML5 in the different mobile devices such as tablets and smartphones. So being able to do this quickly and share it quickly, that's really the goal. Anything operational has to always be moving, so the faster you can get information in the hands of the people that need it, the faster you can make decisions. All right, so we're going to finish up the last 10 minutes and just give you an understanding of how this works, and maybe this will relate to your organization. Here's one customer of ours that had a whole bunch of data centers, but they just could not get a clear view of all the operational systems that they had in place. So because of that, they couldn't be proactive. They had information that was coming from all the large vendors, software vendors that have the operational systems, HP OpenView, Smarts, all different types of systems out there. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to be able to take that information and take it with the other information they had in their databases and other systems, put it together and understand the assets and look at the impact and get those scorecards up there and get the impact and to do it quickly. And the fact that this larger organization had pretty much most of the operational systems out there and many data centers and assets across the organization, they just could not integrate everything together. So by using our technology that lets you connect into the sources and mash it up and give you the dashboards, they were able to get things very quickly out. And the amount of time here is the key factor. It should either take you a few hours to point and click and create something, or maybe a day or two if you're writing custom. So if we could get to that level and have automatic sharing built into it, then we can really accelerate the speed at which these solutions are used. Okay, next one we have is NASA. You're all familiar with NASA. This data center not only deals with the operating data centers, but also went huge data consolidations. You see that DoD has 722 data centers. NASA has 80 data centers that they have to consolidate. And you don't just shut down a data center and start to move over to another one. Systems are up and running. They're monitoring many systems. They're monitoring the moves. So there's a ton of moving parts and data all over the place, and people are always trying to look at the high-level KPIs and scorecards and how they're doing across to how they're performing throughout the day. So being able to create these dashboards quickly, and you see a quote there, and get the ability to do this very simply. You don't have to be a Java programmer or a low-level network operator. You can do it at a high-level scripting language and even a lot of point and click. So if you can get to that level, then you can get organizations such as NASA much more effective. And multiple databases. Many of these organizations have one or all of all databases out there, and also systems. So you can't require a lot of development work to connect in. We can pretty much get to 90% of the systems out there through point and click. And if you can do that quickly and take out the development in connecting to systems, then you can assemble the information quickly, visually, and then you can get those apps out there quickly. And that's something NASA wanted. They wanted to be able to do this very quickly. And a lot of the questions that they had in terms of that needed to be answered, they didn't know in advance. So you have to be able to assemble answers just as fast as the data is coming in. Okay, and we're going to go.
We do have a few minutes for questions, and I've been getting a lot of questions on the performance. So I think it's a good one for maybe take a minute to address. One of the attendees asked, drawing some data from many different systems can be time-consuming. How do you make that perform?
Right. So part of what we do is because we can connect into the systems, we understand the patterns in which it's used. That's because we're intermediating between the user and all that system, all that data. There's complete caching, distributed caching built into the system. Many of these operational systems, like we said, they may not be changing every second or every minute. Maybe it's every hour. So we have the ability for administrators to set caching at the high level of all the services that they're consuming information from, or literally down to the operation of a web service that may be exposed or a database. And you can set caching to be anywhere from 15 seconds to days or months if you want. And by doing this, we can optimize the performance. It means if 20 people go and try to get the same data in the same 30 seconds, they're going to pull it from the cache. They're not going to go to the operational systems. And we optimize even further. If we know that data changes very, very seldom in some of the systems, we may snapshot it and hold it in cache and use it that way. So we have a lot of experience. We know how to connect into these systems. We understand to lessen the load on those systems and also increasing the performance. And there's a whole bunch of optimization techniques in the platform that has built-in pagination and all ways to shuttle data back and forth.
Okay, great, thanks. And then one last question. We have a question. Can your data center operations solution let you bring in non-data center sources, such as customer service queues or website e-conference sales results?
Yeah, that's a key thing, and I'm sorry that didn't come across. Part of our platform and the usage here is that the ability to connect into internal and external disparate systems means that we don't care if it's operational systems that you're pulling from or ERP systems or Salesforce.com or even social media. It's all a source of information for us because we control the security across those different models, that we can pull in information from all different types of systems. And that's actually, you hit it on the head, that's sort of the key here, to really be able to understand the risk and the metrics and monitor this. It's so messy out there that data is in so many different places and so many different systems that you have to be able to handle that elegantly and be able to get that data together. So yes, that's a long answer for yes, we're able to get that information, and we're able to get it to you very quickly, and it doesn't matter what kind of information it is. I think I'll take one more, and I see right here from Ron. How do you control the resources used by real-time data gathering activities? Many parts of the enterprise are sensitive to extra latency monitoring can cause. Yeah, that's a great question. That's, as we said, we can do all sorts of things by pulling data and holding it or pulling it in advance. The latency that you're doing in terms of how long it takes for you to get information, we have all sorts of ways that we can, for best practices, which we can optimize that. Our feeling has been that although latency is a significant part of the problem, that usually assembling the information and proving to the organization, IT organization, that in fact you're not going to impact data and you're not going to slow down their network, that you're only going to give as little information that's required, we're able to demonstrate this because we're working off the live data. So we've been pretty good at getting and demonstrating our data gathering or matchup capabilities so that we don't put a significant load on your systems. Okay.
Great. Well, it looks like we're running out of time, so I'm going to quickly just summarize where everyone can go to get some additional information about our data center operations solution. So we try to make it really easy for everyone. It's JackBe.com/datacenter. There you'll find a landing page. Some of the resources on that landing page is the case study, more detail on the exact one that we covered at a high level in the webinar, but you can read the details on that page as well. And then we also have a position paper on how Presto delivers the value that John talked about today for your data center operations. And then also a demonstration video that you can watch. So thanks everyone for joining today. We really appreciate all your activity on the chat. And if we didn't get a chance to answer your questions, then we'll just contact you directly with some answers. Everyone, I hope you have a good day and see you on another webcast soon.